Welcome back, Forgotten Crimes fans. Today, we're delving into the case of one of history's most notorious con artists, Charles Ponzi, the man who gave his name to the infamous Ponzi scheme. A figure whose charm and audacity drew in millions of dollars and captured the imaginations of people around the world. Ponzi's story is a fascinating tale of ambition, deception, and the ultimate downfall of a fraud mastermind. Charles Ponzi was born on March 3, 1882, in Lugo, Italy. Like many immigrants at the time, he arrived in the United States in 1903 with high hopes for a better future. Initially struggling to make ends meet, Ponzi worked a series of odd jobs, from dishwasher to fruit seller. These early years of hardship would eventually shape Ponzi's mindset. He wanted not just to survive but to thrive, and it was through manipulation and deceit that he would seek his fortune. The roots of Ponzi's scheme began to form in 1919 when he stumbled upon an idea that would lead to one of the greatest financial frauds in history. Ponzi discovered a seemingly foolproof way to profit from international reply coupons, IRCs, which were used in cross-border postal services. At the time, currency fluctuations meant that IRCs could be bought cheaply in certain countries and exchanged for a higher value in others. Ponzi saw an opportunity to exploit this price discrepancy and devised a system where he promised investors massive returns on their money, 50% in just 45 days or 100% in 90 days. The pitch seemed too good to be true, but Ponzi's magnetic personality and the desperation of post-World War I America meant that people were willing to believe in his scheme. As word spread, investors poured money into Ponzi's operation. Initially, Ponzi did pay out the promised returns to early investors, but what they didn't know was that he wasn't making money from IRCs at all. Instead, he was simply paying older investors with the money from new ones, an unsustainable model that would eventually collapse. For a time, however, Ponzi's scheme seemed unstoppable. His headquarters in Boston was flooded with investors hoping to cash in on his promise of easy wealth. Within months, Ponzi had raked in millions, living a lavish lifestyle that included luxury cars, expensive clothes, and a sprawling mansion. The newspapers couldn't get enough of him, and Ponzi was hailed as a financial genius. Some even saw him as a hero who had found a way to beat the system. But as with all Ponzi schemes, the cracks soon began to show. By mid-1920, suspicions about Ponzi's operation grew. Journalists, financial experts, and government officials started to question how Ponzi could generate such high returns so quickly. Investigations revealed that Ponzi had taken in far more money than could ever have been exchanged for IRCs. As the pressure mounted, investors began demanding their money back, and Ponzi's house of cards came crashing down. In August 1920, Ponzi was arrested for mail fraud. The scale of his deception was staggering. Estimates suggest that he defrauded investors of around $15 million, the equivalent of nearly $200 million today. While Ponzi's scheme may not have involved complex financial instruments, its simplicity and reliance on human greed made it all the more devastating. Thousands of people, many of them working-class immigrants like Ponzi himself, lost their life savings in his scam. Ponzi pleaded guilty to fraud and was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. After serving his sentence, he was immediately rearrested on state charges and sentenced to an additional 9 years. Upon his release, Ponzi was deported to Italy, as his U.S. citizenship had been revoked. His later years were a shadow of his former glory. He attempted a few more small-scale scams in Italy and Brazil but never regained his previous notoriety. Ponzi died in poverty in Rio de Janeiro in 1949. Charles Ponzi's legacy endures through the very name of the Ponzi scheme, which is still used today to describe fraudulent investment operations that pay returns to earlier investors with the money from newer ones. While Ponzi himself was not the first to use such a scheme, his brazen tactics and massive reach ensured his place in history. Modern-day scams, like Bernie Madoff's multi-billion-dollar fraud, are reminders that Ponzi's methods continue to resonate, serving as a cautionary tale about the dangers of too-good-to-be-true promises and unchecked greed. The story of Charles Ponzi highlights the allure of wealth and the darker side of ambition. His charm and ability to convince people to part with their hard-earned money turned him into one of the most notorious criminals of his time. Even today, Ponzi schemes continue to surface, proving that, while the man himself may be long gone, his methods live on. Ponzi's tale serves as a reminder that in the world of finance, skepticism and due diligence are crucial to avoiding financial disaster. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Forgotten Crimes. We love diving into the world of true crime, exploring the stories that grip the world and uncovering the details that make these cases so fascinating. If there's a case you're curious about or if you have any thoughts to share, let us know. Until next time, keep your curiosity alive, and remember, the world of crime is as complex as it is captivating.